meant to do this in order for, like, who knows? You know, we just watched a movie about that one Michael Cera Scott,
the bank robber guy.
Yeah, ended up getting himself into a bank robbery when he didn't want to. Like, you know?
I mean,
there's scenarios.
He got himself into it. Sure, he didn't want to, but
he also got himself out of it. That's the thing. Like, you can get yourself out of scenarios. So.
He was still able to keep the money, though. He got away with the money.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I don't think it would make sense for them to bring it back, especially after all the guys ended up killing them, you know, literally getting killed off, the ones that were doing all the threatening.
Like, there's, like, definitely some cliffhangers, but it leaves everything...
It left a huge cliffhanger at the end. It's just wait, did everyone die? Like, what?
But it's meant to be that way, so it can be all open to interpretation.
Yeah, interpretation, everything. Making it to where it's like...
You can
give it your own kind of feel to it.
Ending.
Yeah.
You have your own ending for that movie.
Yeah, and that's something that has been missing from a lot of movies. You know, like...
Well, I mean, it's nice to have a good ending or a clear cut ending.
With this one, you're allowed a little bit of headcanon.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
freedom.
Yeah, to kind of like, you know what? I like to imagine that nobody died. Even the dude that got horribly burned. He learned his lessons, and then he ended up actually going and starting an orphanage to help kids.
It's crazy how he survived that fucking initial explosion from the dude shooting the flamethrower tank on the back.
He flew. Oh, that's
and he was on fire.
Now that guy. Oh, the other guy was the one that put the 6969 on there. 6969. Yeah. He was the one that put the passcode back into it.
He was like,
at least the dude that came back for the guy, he actually.
He ended up chasing the other guys, and that van exploded. So,
well, the main bad guy, he died off. He ended up kind of getting. I mean, you know,
we don't know if he died off.
Or his dad even. Actually, that's true. We don't know if even his dad ended up dying on that either. So maybe they reconciled after, you know, it's okay, my own son tried to do this, you know. He should have just done it with himself as opposed to sending somebody to do it. But then again, the fact that he ended up getting blown up literally at his own devices.
I mean, I honestly guess it's a good way to end that movie because, like, in all technicality, no one necessarily died. We don't even know if the Mexican dude, the Mexican assassin dude died.
Yeah, he was covered in flames, but I mean...
It could just be fucking 3rd degree, 4th degree, or whatever degree burns.
If it's 4th degree, then he's
dead.
There's like almost guaranteed death. Yeah, that's like when that's to the bone. Like 4th degree is like...
I just know 3rd degree and 4th degree are top tier quality.
My dad actually survived 3rd degree burns on his leg. Like, right there, dude. Like that. And like huge, like, good Lord, man. Whew.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying the fact that, like, yeah, dude, like, you would not be able to tell because God healed him that miraculously. It's literally as simple as that. And it's just like, man, like...
That's why I'm saying, like, he could have lived.
Leaving it open like that. And that's the thing, too. One of the things I always enjoyed about the Adam Sandler movies is that usually he would have something at the end that would show what happened to everybody. And generally they would get what they deserved, or they'd unfuck themselves and then find a new outlook on life and be good.
Right.
Like those are good endings to movies.
Did you ever you watched the end of Deadpool 2?
Yeah.
Where he unfucked the fucking Space Force or not Space Force, Force,
X-Force.
X-Force, because they all got fucked. But then he gets his time traveling device from the.
Oh, and he went back and saved everyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, it's been a whole minute, and they.
But
and
it's at the end of the movie, and it's like a what do you call it? A head cannon or?
Oh, it's a re-cannon. Or actually, it's breaking. So because Deadpool is a character that literally breaks the fourth wall all the time. That is the new canon. Like he went and rewrote canon. Like that's literally what that means. Like Deadpool is. I always understood these concepts before I ever learned about Deadpool because as a kid you're not exposed to that, and so when you get introduced to the character, it's like. I remember having a toy that I would play, like I'd create characters, like if I was bored with one toy, I'd make it to where that toy, and then they'd get a new body, and they'd be the same one, and they'd just be upgraded. Like, I remember that, and so it's one of those where, like, breaking the fourth wall and all that, it's like, wait a minute, that's literally just imagination. It's like, God is just imagination. Like, all of us are just imaginary beings, and so, of course, like, imagination...
I used to play the shit out of this game. The Deadpool game, that game is fun as fuck.
I appreciated video games for the fact that it was like me playing with my toys, but without having to literally go and control every toy and do all of that.
Yeah.
Like, that was the I feel that video games were a good bridge to understanding how to intertwine imagination and reality.
Well, yeah, I was a fan of Spider-Man as well, and being able to play the old school Spider-Mans. I haven't played the new school. They look just as good, but I haven't necessarily gave them the time of day at all. But the old school ones, I definitely did play and enjoyed thoroughly.
Oh yeah, the first Spider-Man game that there was Super Nintendo ones that I was like, oh yeah, these are cool. I remember playing Spider-Man on Sega because they were doing the 2D, and I even had the Game Boy Advance. I ended up getting a Game Boy Advance one later too, which that did a lot better than the old school ones. But Spider-Man on the PlayStation 1 is like one of the absolute best Spider-Man games of all time. And then when they came out with I didn't ever play the Spider-Man 1, the movie game, didn't really play that one. Spider-Man 2, the movie game, played that like crazy on the Xbox.
Yeah, 2 was like there. It was
because it felt like they literally took in all of the corrections that needed to be made from the first game, which I heard that there were a few. And they ended up actually taking a lot of the stuff that was amazing about the original Spider-Man games on the PlayStation 1, the PSX, and they brought it into Spider-Man 2. And they really gave it was one of those where it's like, it's almost like you felt like they read your mind on it. It's like, yes, this is exactly, because like as a kid, man, you have Spider-Man toys and you'd be doing that, or you'd have superhero toys, you'd come up with all your own stuff, and like you're like, huh.
From hearing gamers' perspectives and seeing Dark Souls 3, I feel like Dark Souls did that too. Like they were able to listen to the gamers and improve every Dark Souls in some type of form or fashion. And then the third one is just like a lot of people's favorite, if not like the top tier.
So what I've noticed about games is that first game, everyone's going to love it. If they hear about it, they're going to love it. The best way to get one of your games to be an instant classic is to make something similar and prior to, or do some prototype. Make some games that you start to understand game development. And then when you have those made, then whenever they see this one that came out, they're going to love it, and then they might look back at some of your older stuff. And then with that, now you're like, okay.
But I imagine Dark Souls wasn't From Software's first game.
No, it wasn't. What I'm explaining is that as far as game in the series,
Okay. Was Dark Souls the first Souls game?
No.
Okay.
Demon's Soul was the first one, and they have an even older one.
You said they kept one of the swords,
the Moonlight Greatsword, and that's what I'm referring to. They have an older game, which it's a Google search away, that came out before Demon's Soul, that has the Moonlight Greatsword. So that was where they got their first start with it, and then it's like, okay, let's keep bringing. And so with that.
But they were able to.
Dark Souls 1, you couldn't dual wield weapons.
Like
Dark Souls 2, you could dual wield.
Do you believe that what they were doing was based off of gamer feedback, or they were just that in touch with improving their game, they was able to not need necessarily feedback, but was able to improve by themselves?
So, what you do with so the way I because I haven't gotten to see how their process and all that. This is based off of me growing up having watched the Halo 2 documentary about how they explained their game making process, and then applying that to because I've seen how game developers do it, and I've heard stories from theirs. Like, it makes sense for Dark Souls to have done it in kind of way.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed with games is that the first game comes out, it's one of those where it's like it's usually a hidden gem. Second game comes out, everybody jumps on it after they're like, they've played the first game, and second game brings more new people into it, and so the new crowd coming in likes what they see in the second game, and then they might have gripes about the first game. Whereas people that have been in the first and the second game, they have gripes about the second game, because the first game it hit just right on that resonating point.
Did you get to play the first Dark Souls when it was like around this time?
Yes, rough. Well, I got to watch a little bit, and I played a little bit, and then I got it, and then I started for me, Dark Souls, the way Dark Souls is that you don't have to interact with another human being on a game that you love. It's wonderful. If you want to do co-op, if you want to if you want to have anything to do with the community, it's there if you'd like it. It's not something that's like, you go into it and everyone's there. It's one of those
I didn't even think about that, but that is... certain games do that and certain games don't do that, and there is a huge difference.
It has a whole vibe difference.
Yeah,
and that's a part of the game design. Yeah, and that's what's beautiful.
That's beautiful. Yep, I agree.
Oh. So
it's one of the more enjoyable things about the newer Grand Theft Auto games, because you're able to choose between story or open world co-op.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even with that, then you get to customize your character. To me, that's how games, like, if it's a game where you're telling a story, either make it to where the player can feel one with, like, it's always the intention for the player to be able to understand the character, because the player is fueling the character to move through.
Mm-hmm.
I love customization for the very reason that when you have it to where there's customization, then people can put their own twist, or they can make their own character. They can do whatever with it. It's like, if I make a game and I have a universe and I have a character, I've got all of it's fleshed out. It's like, okay, this is how it is. I said so because I made it. And I am God of this world because I made it. I'm sharing it with you. That said, here's some opportunities for you to play within this playground that you agree upon with that.
That's another cool thing, in my opinion, with games is whenever there's cutscenes and the game visually shows your creation
in the cutscene.
The cutscene, instead of like some default.
Yeah, the default character.
Mm-hmm. Even though you have a set character.
Yeah.
Like, that's more...
Immersive.
Immersive,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And then there's games that don't utilize that, and it's like a separation.
Yeah, and so that's the part where, to me, what they did with Halo 1, 2, and 3, and even Halo Reach, like that, those were that is the 4 games those are like 4 Bungie games, like, and then there's even like Halo 2 ODST, which that's just another kind of spinoff, but still made by Bungie.
Halo Reach was like fucking there, dude. So, I was at every friend's house playing Halo Reach. Anyone I met around the cities,
play Halo Reach. They were on it.
They all were knowledgeable of Halo Reach.
Yeah. So that's the thing to remember is that, well, here's the thing, just so you know, that's how it was with Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3. That's just Halo. It's just that good. So Bungie, they ended up passing the mantle on to 343 with Halo Reach for the multiplayer. They told their story. At that point, to me, the story of Halo is good and finished in those regards. Now, with Halo, I haven't even touched Halo Infinite's story because Halo 1 through 3 was like that was Bungie's story. And so to me, the story of Halo belongs to Bungie. Anything else is fan favor, which I'm cool with. It used to be something like, but since with Halo Infinite, what they've done, and I do appreciate, is the fact that it's free to play. You can buy the season pass, and then you get armor, and so it goes to helping out with the game. You don't have to play the campaign, because it's one of those that so many people certain people don't want their characters tarnished or touched a certain way. So in a game that you can, like Halo 1, 2, 3 told the story of Master Chief. That's why you played as Master Chief the entire way through. That's why you never saw his face or anything. And then Halo Reach, you got to play as Noble 6. No name. You got to be Noble 6. You get to make your character be this character. And in all the multiplayer, you get to play as your character. You can do any of your customization in the multiplayer. I am all cool with that. I feel that if there's a story that is meant for a specific character and you are meant to experience that character, then enjoy the ride and through the story of that character.
But as soon as something happens to said character, it should be...
It's to me, the character belongs to the creator, and with that, the creator is going to make it to where that their character is a certain way, and within that certain way, when others see the character, you can always go back to the source material. Okay, does the character? This is who the character is. Do they match up with that? Okay, no. All right, now you get to create your own character. Have character customization by all means. That was what's amazing about Fable 1 and 2 and 3. Is that it was an RPG where you got the story and you got to create your character, customize them however you'd like to. Right. So there's definitely some, like, to me, Spyro is Spyro. Now, if you made a game where it's Spyro, the Dragon's Awake, or well, they already did that. Dragon's like some kind of Dragon-tastic or Dragonify or Spyro, Master, like Lord of Dragons or Leader of Dragons or something like that, and then you got to play as a dragon that you get to customize, by all means. Then at that point, now you've played all the Spyro games, or you've played the games where you know Spyro, you've gotten to play as Spyro. Now you get to be your own fucking dragon, like Spyro. You got to see how he did it. Now it's your turn. And now with that, have fun. Your character is exactly how you desire them to be. You're familiar with the controls. You understand the concepts. You understand different things. Choose your moveset. Choose how your character is. This is the character that shows you how it's done. Your turn. Have fun with your story. It's your story. I like those kinds of games. By the way, that was totally just a concept, Spyro the Dragon. Oh, well, hey, that was just an example.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that, Halo 1, 2, 3, Master Chief story. Everyone loved him. Love it because the story is amazing. It's compelling. It pulls you in. It's gripping. It's thrilling. And you associate with the character even though you never see his face. It's beautiful. Same like Legend of Zelda. you associate with Link, even though you never his name isn't even Link in the game. You get to change the name of the character. That's the beauty right there, you know. And he doesn't have a voice, or he doesn't speak. You get to imagine how he would be. You get to create as that character. Those are great games. Even the Mario games, like Mario talks a little bit. You know, he just throws out the Italian stuff, but Mario Brothers, people love those games for a reason. They have Mario makers. They've got all like infinite amount of Mario stuff. Mario makes money. With that, people love Mario because they can associate. Okay, that's Mario. Mario's always like that. People think about Santa. Okay, that's Santa. Santa's always like that, unless someone's doing like a badass Santa or a different variation of Santa.
Simpsons, fucking Family Guy.
Yeah, you got a character. That's how that character is. Use your own character.
Associate their habits and stuff with that character.
Yeah, it's whatever that character identifies with. So, to me, character creation is always amazing, and I feel that. Have your character, let your character be your character. That's why I never cared for different comics or comic books that would sit there and do something to the character that doesn't make sense, and then thankfully we get a redo, you know. So basically the publishers realized, oh wait a minute, the guy that wrote this character or did that, they were not good. So let's go ahead and wipe that away from the memory of the masses, because good Lord, that don't fuck with the character it's established. People do not like that. You know?
Definitely not.
Yeah, so yeah. So establish your own character or come to your own understanding of the character. And at that point, don't be upset about other people's views or versions of the character. If you know what your version of the character is, at that point, it's like, that's how you view that character. By all means, you do you. The way I view him, totally different, and I'm cool with that. And that's legit. And what happens is the people that hold that same type of canon, they're the ones that are going to win out. Then the people that have the whatever kind of canon, they're going to find their own. They're going to fuck off because no one's going to even. It's one of those that like you're going to be hard pressed to be able to sit there and have an extended conversation about golf with a bunch of football fans at a football game. Like, yes, a ball is involved. However, you're missing the point. Oh, you want to make this main character a certain orientation or whatever? Well, guess what? You'll find your orientation over there. This is where we're at. This is our vibe.
Wearing a hockey jersey to a baseball or basketball game.
Happy Gilmore literally wore his hockey jersey to the golf games that he'd play in. It's one of those that like there's a vibe to everything, you know. Like you'll find your crowd at that point. Choose the type of crowd that you like. Choose the vibes that you like, and so with that, games are meant to be neutral, fun, enjoyable for everyone, and tell a great story. It's supposed to be inclusive. That said, if you got someone coming in there and saying, it's like.
Hold your horses.
Remember, hold your horses. Here's the character, and then if you have your interpretation, that's cool. Make your own character, which is even cooler because people apparently getting tired of all the rehashing of stuff. So make your own character, make your own story, make your own canon, make your own. That's beautiful. That is divine. Creativity is divine. Don't bastardize creativity. Don't. For your own sake, you know? Yeah. Like, don't limit yourself. Don't take what someone else made and then warp it into something disgusting, you know?
That's why I always tell you, like, someone made this game. Like, that's someone's child. Yeah. You know?
It really is. You put your heart and soul into stuff like that, man. Like, yeah.
That's always get onto Justin, too, whenever he bashes a game. I'm like, bro, there's so many other gamers that are
all about this.
That truly and duly love the game or have so much greater passion for the game. But you're just like totally against it. I understand that. So you don't necessarily need to hate on it, but you can acknowledge
someone likes it.
You can acknowledge someone likes it and
that's
move about the day.
Well, that's the thing too to remember. Like, it's like, it's like, okay, for me as someone who grew up in the '90s, you got to see the nerds get picked on. You got to see the exclusivity. You got to see the in crowd.
I mean, you say '90s, but like bully's still happening, and
let me. Yeah, here's the thing, is that not as much.
People still.
That's the thing, is that shit's going. That shit from compared to where it was to where it is now.
I think it's way worse than what it is now. I'm in the news every single day.
Yeah, if you're surrounding yourself with that.
I read the news at least 12 times a day.
So, if you're constantly surrounding yourself with
and
other
it's
people's
not about
perspectives,
anything around surrounding myself with it, it's just.
so if you're reading it, you're surrounding yourself, or you're dipping your toes into it. You're allowing it into your garden of creation. Your mind is the Garden of Eden. My mind is the Garden of Eden. You're allowing things into your own garden of creation by thinking about it.
But I'm just saying it like tomato, but you're like don't disacknowledge stuff that's happening.
Okay, here's the thing. Things are better. They really are.
Everything is better, yes.
That's it. So yeah, there's no need for a but. It's one of those that I'm saying that having seen where the world was, the world is a better place. It wasn't even that bad back then, and it's still better now. And it's one of those that there's people that are always going to be peddling fear because you can control people by leading them with their fears.
You're saying the world, but we were specifically talking about school bullies.
Okay. School bullies, well, guess what? They're in the world. So again,
I know, but you're still bringing up the world whenever we're talking about. It's like games in the world too, but we weren't talking about the world. We were talking about
school bullying has gone down in comparison to where it was in the '90s. I guarantee you. You don't.
We disagree to disagree.
Well, if we disagreed to disagree, then we would still argue our points. Now, if we agreed to disagree,
that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, I know. According to who?
According to how many schools are still having problems and the teachers don't give a flying fuck.
According to who? You know those teachers. You're judging all those teachers fairly harshly.
Judging by
according to someone's perspective that put it out there.
It's like your research with the philosophy stuff. You're able to know that information because of your studies and your knowledge of it. I'm able to know this information because of my readings and knowledge of it.
So, that reminds me of people that would get offended on somebody else's behalf. Like,
there's no offense to me.
I know.
It doesn't bother me.
What I'm explaining, I'm talking about as far as the information part. As far as that part. It's like, okay, so you read articles, wherever the sources are, someone is being paid to write that article. Someone is paid for
these events are truly happening, whether it's coming from an article or not.
So here's the thing, is that those numbers and all that, there's information that is not being put out there. It's one of those that suggesting that the world is a horrible place is what helps to perpetuate it to be a horrible place. Because you keep showing people all these horrible things. Whereas if you start to show people positive things, I guarantee you the world becomes... There's less negativity that happens when people start to emulate positivity.
I mean, that's the whole point of speaking positively and having positivity in life to lower the number of said stuff, but doesn't mean it's not going on. Doesn't mean the comparison value of what's going on now and what what's happening in the previous isn't greater or less or equal.
So here's the thing. At that point, all right.
Like I said, we could just agree to disagree.
What are we disagree? What are we agreeing to disagree about?
Like the bullies of the school, like you say that you know that the 90s bullies was far greater than the bullies happening now, but I'm disagreeing.
I'm saying that things, as far as bullying, there was more bullying going on back then than there is now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm disagreeing.
So...
And then I said we can agree to disagree.
That even feels like something that's just not even worth disagreeing on or even agreeing about. So I just pull myself away from that topic all in all. If those are the only choices, if that's the only perspective.
Why would you want to talk about bullying?
So the point that I was getting on before we ended up getting like hammered on to watching these two rabbits fuck on this rabbit trail and stay on this rabbit trail is that the world is not as doom and gloom as everyone puts it out to be. That said, because there's amounts of technology and that there's amount of people that are whistleblowers and that will actually point out when some shit's going down,
the
world is constantly, it's always a better place. It's becoming a better place every day. It's always been a good place, and people are finally waking up to seeing the positivity, and they're cutting back on doing the dumbass shit. Does dumbass shit still happen? Probably until it finally stops. That being said... It's like
the meme of the Einstein... I don't know if it's Einstein, but it's something along the lines of a great teacher that messes up one question and the students point out the one question that he messed up rather than the 20 questions he got right. You know,
if anything, that just goes to show, oh, hey, I guess I am a good teacher. Glad my students are catching on. That's the point that too many people can drop their own, like, can actually humble themselves on, is the fact that, wait a minute, maybe that teacher's doing his job if I was able to catch that. That's a good teacher to me. Whenever your students become teachers themselves, that's the aspiration of any teacher. Ask any teacher for their own students to at least grasp the understanding.
You're missing the point of what I was trying to point out.
Are you missing the point of what I am pointing out?
No, I'm just saying.
So the point that I'm pointing out is that, like, to get snagged on...
I've been understanding what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean by me bringing this stuff up is just allowing it to stay there. But... you know, I bring it up anyways.
So, there's certain things that generally are not brought up because there's an understanding. So once you've come to an understanding of something, it doesn't need to keep being brought up. For example, did you know that your left foot is underneath your right foot? Hey, did you know that your left foot is underneath your right foot? Hey, did you know your right foot is on top of your left foot? Like, what's the point of bringing that up? So... as someone grows into their understanding of things, then they're able to see the perspectives of like, oh, maybe things are actually better than what this news article said. Maybe the world is actually doing a lot better than what what these people are saying, which you hadn't met those people. The only thing that you know to be true is that you exist. That's the one true thing you know. You're here. That's it. And even that part in and of itself is like, is that true? Am I here? Well, you're thinking. I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think.
Just as we always say, if there's good, there's bad. If there's bad, there's good. And
if there's good, that means there's more good. That sounds better than the good and the bad. If there's good, that means there's more good.
And
if there's bad, that means that there's better.
To be able to have yourself look at the good is always going to be better than to look at the bad.
So you can see the bad, but you can see it as you don't have to give it a label of bad or good. What you can do is, okay, desirable, undesirable. If something is undesirable, you can now use that as the measure of knowing that you desire the opposite. So at that point, shift your focus onto what you desire instead of what you don't desire. Because what happens is whatever your focus is where your life will go. If you're focused on the negative, your life goes that way. If you're focused on the positive, your life goes that way. It's the weirdest thing. Your focus is where your life goes. Shift your focus in order for your life to be going the direction you desire it to be. If you're tired of being stuck in the same loop, maybe you should pay attention to what you're saying or what you're thinking about. What you're perceiving the world to be.
Yeah, exactly. It's up to the person whether they are unhappy with the way they're going about things or if they're satisfied with their routine of their life, you know.
Here's something that this is kind of just now came to mind, and it's a perspective that I'm gonna mull over because I kind of like it. Is that I don't see people as happy or unhappy. I see people as coming to the understanding of what actually brings them joy, what they actually do enjoy. And so with that, anytime that there's a moment of unhappiness, you can stop and be like, wait a minute. This just reminds me that there is beauty in the world. For me to feel this moment right now, it's like, okay, that means I can feel the opposite of this. What's it like feeling that? And then at that point, all of that energy now gets transmuted and transformed into the positive. Because now you're not using this situation as your measuring stick. You're using what is the feeling you receive? What's the feeling you have? Use that feeling as your measuring stick. And at that point, measure yourself to the higher positive feelings, the positive vibes that you actually do enjoy, you love to have, and to actually be a part of you, that you desire to represent you. Be the change you desire to see in the world. And
I mean, for me, it's never about be the change I desire in the world. It's more for satisfy myself and try to treat others how I would want to be treated.
Mm-hmm. So,
and for even on that note, I get satisfaction or joyfulness or makes me feel, better, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Doing certain stuff that is, not necessarily a benefit in some people's eyes or good. It's like
it resonates with who you really
are. It's like watching UFC or reading these articles, They're not necessarily good for the brain or good for the world. The news isn't good for the world.
There can be good news. There
is good news.
Yeah,
let me rephrase that.
News. Yeah,
but like shoving the bad stuff in people's face isn't good for the world. Watching people beat up each other, I don't think is good for the world. But don't get me wrong, for my personal self, I do get enjoyment watching these two athletes that train their ass off fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
And that, whether that's good or bad for my brain or for the world, it brings me joyfulness, happiness, or
I would say
whatever you want to call it. I'm satisfied by watching two athletes beat each other up. I don't know what else to say besides that,
So, why?
I mean,
you mentioned the athletes, and you mentioned the seeing the training. So maybe it's not.
It's
You
I don't watch their training.
No, I mean,
like they're.
You said trained athletes. I'm implying. So
yeah, they get X amount of time to train for these fights.
Well,
they're honing skills, and there is levels to these athletes in the UFC, and you know that there's.
It's all mental, dude. And you
get
let me explain this real fast.
Jiu-jitsu belt grappler wrestler that goes against the amateur that believe he's the greatest of all time. He's been training his whole entire life, and he truly believes he can knock out anybody because he's the greatest boxer of all time. But then he gets manhandled by this jiu-jitsu guy.
So here's the thing. The jiu-jitsu guy, he knows, he's familiar with himself and others.
He's a trained athlete.
Take out the training athlete part of it. I'm talking as far as on the martial arts part.
In both of these scenarios, either person could be victorious.
Listen, this is what I'm explaining. I'm talking about on the martial arts part of it.
I know, and I'm letting you know either one of these individuals could be victorious.
Perfect. Let's take it down to the martial arts part. So the martial arts part comes down to who is more mentally conditioned. The mental conditioning creates the conditioning of the body. The way that you create mental conditioning is by being familiar with the condition you desire to have. And so when you understand and you know yourself on that physical level, on that mental level where you are just a master of yourself, that means that you're able to master the others too. Because you understand yourself so much so.
There is that, Josh.
So allow me to finish then. So what I'm explaining with that is that yes, infinitely anybody can win. What it comes down to with any combatants, with anything, is there's the difference between a belief and there's the difference between knowing. And the combination of the two is even stronger. If someone believes skill goes out the window. You don't need to keep bringing in that. I'm talking on the psychological thing. I'm literally talking like Ip Man and Bruce Lee. Literally exactly what he is one of the world's some of the best martial artists of all the world.
There's reasons. There's
what I'm explaining
systems because it's skill gaps.
What I'm explaining, because it's one of those that as far as with martial arts go, is it comes down to belief and knowing. The conditioning comes from whenever you have an established belief to where you now know it and you understand it, you are it. So that's where if a rookie gets in there, as long as you're
argue against that is because of gravity and body functionality.
A straw in a tornado can go through a wooden pillar.
If somebody
it comes down to the proper force in the right area.
In a chokehold, no matter your belief, if you don't get out of that chokehold, you're gonna be passed out. No matter your belief, if someone has you in an arm bar, they can break your arm.
Hang on.
No matter your belief, if someone hits you in the back of your head or the right spot in your chin, you can go to sleep no matter your belief. Exactly. Skill.
No. Skill will lose when it comes down to the infinite possibilities. It comes down to being in the right place at the right time. And having all of your acquired skill. It's the familiar.
Agree to disagree because
I'm not. It's one of those that you don't even understand what you're disagreeing with. So I'm not even going to agree.
I'm disagreeing with you saying everything in MMA can be accomplished with belief.
It's because they believe that they could do that they're doing it to begin with. It's because they believe that if I get into UFC, I can do something. It's because of that initial belief. So yeah, Everything comes down to belief. If you believe that you can lose, you're right. If you believe you can win, you're right. And there's the freedom. At that point, choose your own belief. Follow along with your belief.
Why would two fighters go into the ring and one of them believes they're going to lose? That doesn't sound right at all.
That's doubt. And so here's the thing. It comes down to...
fighter is going to doubt themselves getting into that ring.
There's some of them are going into the ring so that they can stop doubting themselves. That's a part of it.
Why do you got to call bullshit? Why can't you believe that they are thinking positive? Here's
the thing. Whenever you pay attention to how some of these fighters talk and their speech patterns... Allow me... Good God, dude. I don't even feel like explaining. Oh.
Exactly. I'm trying to stop you from explaining.
I agree that you don't understand what I'm saying yet. And that's okay.
I mean, I definitely do.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
So is this just internet troll you, or, like, what is this?
I mean, it's just me disagreeing with what you're saying.
Because you don't understand what I'm saying. That's the only reason you disagree.
I'm definitely understanding what you're saying.
No, you don't. If you're not able to understand... If you disagree, then you do not understand what I'm saying. That's it. That's okay.
I mean, I can disagree with whatever you want to explain.
Because you don't understand. When you understand it, you don't disagree. The fact that you disagree means you don't understand.
That's okay. Like saying that you're 100% right.
Didn't say that. No. You're saying that you choose to disagree with me.
But you're saying if you knew what you're saying, I would 100% agree.
Did not say that either. I'd say you wouldn't disagree.
Yeah. And
it's because you don't understand.
If you don't disagree, you would have to be in agreement.
Because you don't understand? You haven't come up with your own
that means you're correct whenever I'm saying that.
Because you're not looking at it from an infinite perspective. You're not seeing it from my perspective. You're using a narrow-minded perspective.
I'm understanding your perspective and I'm disagreeing with it.
So then you're using a narrow-minded perspective because you're not seeing my perspective then.
I'm just disagreeing with what you're saying. You're disagreeing with
your perceived perspective of my perspective.
I'm disagreeing with what you're saying. You're disagreeing
with your perceived interpretation of what I'm saying. That's what you're disagreeing with. You're not disagreeing with what I'm actually saying. What I really mean, it's because you don't understand it that you disagree. Dis means without agreement. That means you don't agree because you don't understand what I'm putting out there for you to agree to.
I don't agree with what you're saying.
Because you don't understand what I'm saying.
I definitely do understand.
No, you don't, or you would not disagree. That's okay.
You are not right with what you're saying, so I'm not agreeing with it.
Because you have not. I know what I'm saying. You don't know what I'm saying. That's your own. That's on you.
I mean, you can say I don't know what you're saying, but I definitely understand what you're saying.
You have an elementary understanding. If you still disagree,
that's definitely false.
That is 100% accurate. In that case, what I'm explaining is that belief is what's going to triumph. Knowledge, understanding is what's going to triumph. Whatever your belief is, if you understand a belief to be true, then that's what's going to triumph. Whatever you attune yourself with, whatever you believe to be true about yourself, and you wholeheartedly go with it without a single inkling of a doubt, because you understand, you're that familiar with, then that's whenever it happens.
And that's why I'm saying I disagree. I don't agree.
You don't understand.
You are
when
saying.
I hear you say disagree, that means you don't understand. And that's okay.
And
that's what I
rechanged my words because I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say I don't agree with what you're saying.
So I stand by what I said where you don't understand what I said. That said, I am open to hearing what you interpret in the quickest, smallest amount of words so that we can at least start to build an understanding.
Because there's always a fighter's punch, a fighter's chance anytime there is confrontation physically.
Describe a fighter's... describe that. What is that? What does that mean?
That means...
I'm asking so that we can come to a mutual understanding, so we can mutually create definitions so that you understand what I'm saying. And I understand even better what you're saying as well.
I definitely already understand and don't agree with what you're saying.
What is your perception of what I'm saying?
I'm just going to repeat what you said.
Which is?
That your belief is always going to have the greater value than skill. Yes.
Here's the thing. Because your belief is what's going to be tried. Your skill is that's just what you're attuned with. That's what you're familiar with. Your belief is...
And by the way, you said yes to what I just responded with, and that's what I knew you meant this whole entire time, and I'm still not agreeing with that.
Because you still do not understand. So now that you've better pointed out what your belief is, what I've had to say, now I can better define it so that you can come to an understanding. So, what I'm explaining is that if a fighter believes that they can do it, and they don't have a shadow of a doubt in their mind, perfect. Now, if there's a fighter who questions, if that chink in the armor happens and the other fighter picks up on it, they win. Or if the person that, because that they believe and they don't have anything to necessarily fully back it up with except their own belief in themselves and their own skill, that fighter's chance that you talked about, if they're at least open to some way somehow they can win, the skill doesn't matter. The skill only is there to help them be to justify to themselves and to everyone else that they could win. Winning happens inside here first. It happens within, and either you win or you lose whenever you're put out there to do it. And at the end of the day, if you hold on to a loss, or if you see it as feedback that you can utilize, that you can apply to yourself. Like, now I understand my body better, and now I understand why it's good to be in certain positions better. It's literally being to where now you have a greater understanding of yourself. So belief is what's most important in all of it. Because at that point, if your belief is either going to give you the win or it's going to give you the loss. If you're believing the right thing, then you're going to win no matter what in here. If you believe ever so slightly the wrong, you're going to get your opportunity to find out and test and find a new belief. The ultimate belief comes down to that you have to believe that some way, somehow you can do anything. Once you have that, then at that point, everything else is just simply an accessory to amplify the fact that I can do anything that I choose, that I set out to do. I can do all things, as a matter of fact. Everyone can. That's the point. Everyone can do anything. It comes down to how much do you believe that to be true? Are you letting the current circumstances stop you? Are you letting what others say about you? Are you letting a loss become a part of you? Are you internalizing that you're the type of fighter that loses and gets held down? Are you defeated that much so? Or are you the type that, you know what? I go into that ring and I always have a great time, regardless of what happens. I go with the flow. I go in there because I enjoy moving around and getting to do things and have fun and be a part of it. I enjoy it's one of those that then everything is a win. Everything's a victory. It's just like in video games when you play League of Legends or you play any video game. You're just like, if I'm just going head first, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to break through someday, some way, somehow. I'm going to break through. I'm going to beat that boss. And the fighters, they have to understand that the only boss you have to beat is the one inside. It doesn't matter how big the person is. I remember as a kid being taught that if you hit a grown-ass man, someone way taller than you, in the temple, in just the right spot, you can kill him. As a matter of fact, that's the whole point of David and Goliath, where he slung a little rock and a pebble into this dude's freaking giant's forehead, like 9 feet plus tall, and he fell and died. The physics, none of that shit matters. Those were just the details. It's because he believed, I can do it, because my God is with me. At that point, I'm just going to take whatever feels right.
I mean, he used physics to...
He didn't know shit about physics. He was a fucking shepherd boy that played music with a bunch of sheep. He didn't even have hair on his balls yet. He was young as shit. He had nothing to do with physics. That was God.
Physics didn't work there.
Because God is physics, dude. Is that a hard concept? It's just in a game engine, oh, hey, guys, the physics engine is God.
I mean, you're using physics to do stuff, so...
No, God is using you to even come up with a term of physics, to even comprehend physics. You are the observer.
And you're utilizing physics.
He picked up a stone. The word physics wasn't even a fucking... First of all, even if he was a physical being, then he probably didn't even know the words physics. He probably spoke a totally different language. That part doesn't matter.
You don't need to know the word punch to throw a punch. You don't need to know the word walk to walk.
True. Words are just words. So again, back to the Bruce Lee If Man.
Why did you bring up that he didn't know the word physics?
Because you're the one that... Well, it's because of physics. Well, you're the one that brought up physics, bud. I just said he threw the pebble into the...
I brought up the physics of it, not the word that he should or shouldn't know or does or doesn't know.
Why was physics brought up?
Because...
So what does it have to do with it?
Because you said it didn't matter where he hit him or...
That's not what I said.
You said something along those lines.
So you didn't understand what I said. So allow me to...
I understood what you said. I just don't recall the exact words that came out of your mouth.
So even the words of the similes that you put out there are still not fully accurate similes to what was said. So allow me to re-put that in a way that is easier to that is inducive that... I say inducive. That is conducive with easier understanding with less words from me. So, this physical world only exists because of the invisible. The invisible goes by breath, by I, by God, by the unseen forces. And that invisible force is within everybody. That invisible force is literally what creates atoms, particles. The invisible force is all of those atoms and particles. Ons, off, switches turned on, so that those now have meaning, that they have shape and form and all of those things. That's everything is a part of that invisible force. So, just as I said, it did not matter if the woman actually touched Christ's side. It was just simply the belief. And Christ said, by your faith you are healed. It's the faith, it's the belief. It's the exact same thing whenever the creator of the universe said, hey, my creation, go and kill these giants that are attacking your land. But I'm a simple shepherd boy that only plays music. It's like, I know. And because of you simply loving and being creative and going with it, you're chosen. Me, a humble shepherd boy, a young child, yes, because of you. And the reason that you're doing this is because I made you. I am you. I'm also that giant. And guess what? That giant, me, which is just you, you can be them. You know why you can? Because I said so. You know what? Here, go pick some pebbles up. I'll show you that it doesn't matter what they look like. None of that matters.
He used a slingshot.
It's a sling, not a slingshot. There's a slingshot and there's a sling.
Yeah, those are used at war too.
I know, and God is. And here's the thing to remember too: is that who do you think created war? Who do you think created those weapons? Who do you think even gave the inspiration for those things to be made?
I mean,
that's right, the one that created it all.
I just bring up war because it's a.
Yeah, they were getting ready to invade and all that. The Palestinians.
Does harm, Like they work. That tool that shepherd uses, the timid shepherd,
not timidness,
or boy shepherd, whatever you call them. David, yeah. David killed the Goliath, or took out the Goliath. That's the actual weapon.
It wouldn't have mattered. That's the point, is what I'm explaining. He used little pebbles. He used rocks that he found in a creek.
I mean, you say little pebbles, but
I say pebbles. They're smaller. The details doesn't matter. It's just like when Christ said, "Because by your faith you are healed." That's all that matters. He went with the small, still voice, which is God, that inspiration, the one that told him, "Hey, go grab these pebbles, go grab those rocks. Hey, use your sling." That's God. That's it. Though sling only has power because the small, still voice told him to do it. That's it. That's like if you're in the middle of a video game and all of a sudden, there's a little hint that flickers over there.
That's it. If I was, I had the exact same scenario for me, like my mom was being attacked, so I'm not just going to let that happen, so I'm going to defend her. And I'm a small child.
You did the right thing.
It's not because there was a small voice in my head. It's just because I knew protection was needed.
And it's that the one that gave you those instincts is the one that created you. That created everything. And it's because that your mother is that valuable to you that you did that. That is divine. That is God. It's one of those and that's the thing, that you go all through the Bible and you see all the times where someone was in a horrible, shitty situation.
I mean, I was just saying that because,
and that was God inside of you that did it.
There was protection needed, and the boy believed he could do it, so he did it.
Well, here's the thing too with that, is that he had time to prepare for it. It wasn't like, it was one of those where there was an army and he happened to just kind of stumble across, and then they saw him and he's like, "Y'all are afraid of that guy?" It's like, dude, we serve God. And then it's like, "Go grab these pebbles." You know what? Okay, I'll come fight this giant. You guys, all you soldiers, all you guys standing around here saying that you worship the same God that I worship and you're afraid of that giant? Okay. And then God showed him, boom, and they're like, and then he became a king after he went and kept slaying more giants. He actually cut off the Goliath's head and he brought it to the king and showed him, "Hey, here you go." And it was one of those where that is God. It's just like right there, like that was what he was made to do. You were made to do that. You were made to protect like that. You were made to protect things that are beautiful and loving to you, that are caring and compassionate. The sort, like, you came from her, and as a matter of fact, that's what's even great. Like, and literally writings from David, King David in the Bible, him saying, it's like, "All right, you were the one that put me in my mother's womb. You're the one that you are essentially my mother's womb. You're the one that brought me out of her." It's like, okay, I'm gonna do what, like, I'm your toy. You're gonna do with me whatever you choose. I completely understand.
I mean, you say that, but free will exists, and that's why there's good and bad.
The knowledge of good and evil. If you do not desire to keep eating the fruit of it, uproot it and plant something new, and so you eat of that instead. That's why you're offered 2 trees: the tree of life, eternal life, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you don't like good and evil, guess what? You uproot that motherfucker. You uproot that tree, and you stop eating that fruit. Instead of eating life, love, prosperity.
You keep saying God works through you, but it
works through everybody.
It's also like people aren't able to say, "God told me to go kill this person," or
because that would be a lie.
Exactly.
And so this is what I'm explaining, is that the way that you find God is by just clearing your mind out. It's obviously that person that said that's the evil one. There's 2 ones. The evil one, the good one. The enlightened one. The source of all.
Yeah,
and then there's the
you're the only one. You're the boss. That's why free will is there.
Free will is there in order for you to...
And also remember, free will is there for love.
Okay.
And if there is good, there is bad. If there is love, there is hate.
So the way that you get out of that dichotomy is by grasping and holding on to literally the tree of love and tree of life. That way it drops off.
Exactly.
Then the wicked is burned off. The bad is burned off.
That's the right way to go through things, but still, it's up to the beholder and not the creator.
Negative. That's wrong. That is such skewed negative.
Because the one that the boss, you are the one capable of choosing either side.
So this is what I'm pointing out real fast, because I feel
if you wanted to change your ways tomorrow, you could go do bad things.
So here's the thing. So again, like whenever I say Yahweh, breath, and the I, I'm not talking... You even straight up said you're the boss. I'm not talking about the you. I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about you or me. I'm talking about the I. And that I is what controls everything. That is what the creator is. And so, just so... For my own sake and for your own sake, so that you understand, so that not going to keep revisiting, not beating a dead horse. Let the horse dissipate, and then a new horse, like so that a topic is not just continuously over analyzed to the point that the point is completely lost. Scripture explains that every knee will bow and every tongue will rise. So it explains that Christ was sent in this world not to judge it, but to transform it so that the world may be saved. So everybody shall find salvation. Not for me to worry about. Not for anyone to worry about. It happens. The way I know that is because I used to doubt. It's just like people, being at the end of it, it's like, oh, hey, everyone, all right, jump into the pool. And then there's the whole scared group, and then there's the group that's out of the pool, and it's like, oh, that was actually kind of fun. I already did that part. I already did the being afraid part. I'm already at the end of that. And it's like, oh, this is exactly why all these organizations, all these different groups, all of this, the media, like not news media. I mean a medium. I mean like a painting. I mean like a cartoon, an animation, a video game. Those are mediums of art. That's what I mean when I'm saying mediums. I mean that. So that's exactly why most anything always, or a lot of things, there's so much stuff that's out there that puts out a positive message, is because we're going to make it through. It was already predestined. Everyone gets their salvation. And what it comes down to is whenever someone feels that they're not going to have that salvation, it's okay. That's just the current point of view. Been there, done that. We all have. At that point, there's the relief in the knowing that the imaginary bad guy that did the imaginary bad guy thing that you later on hear about in the news, he's gonna figure it out. And the people that were wronged, they'll be taken care of. I don't waste time. I'm done wasting time. I invest my time. If someone wants to keep investing their time and wasting it and looking at how horrible the world is, okay, you'll figure it out. I've seen what it does. You do you, boo-boo. If that's where your vibes are, keep those vibes. You can hold on to those vibes. If you feel the world is that way, you know what? Eventually you're going to start looking for good news. Because you find what you look for. If you keep looking for bad, you're going to find it. And what it comes down to is like, you know what? In this lifetime, or it doesn't matter. That's beyond me. I give it up. If you want to find violence, if you want to find all the reasons that things are bad, you'll find it. You'll find it.
I don't choose what I find. I just look at the news. So
what I'm explaining is that if you keep, by you opening it and looking at the news,
I don't dwell over anyone's.
I know, and what I'm explaining. Well, again, if you feel that the world is a bad
topics to bring them up.
Okay, well, those topics, if it's on a higher vibe, cool. If it's on a lower vibe, cool for you. Everyone finds it. Everyone's going to be taken care of. At the end of the day, it's one of those that seems rough right now. It seems like all this doom and gloom with news or whatever news you get. Okay, that's just information. That's just like.
I don't see anything doom or gloom about our world.
Well, so when I said that bullying has gone down from the 90s to now, or the severity of it, or whenever I made that statement, you're like, I disagree. That's a statement of doom and gloom. If you don't feel that, just because of what you see in the news, and that's the beautiful part too, especially utilizing hindsight, and it's like, okay, that news article that told you that, let's look at some of the other things that used to say some of the same negative stuff, and then see how they were proven wrong.
I mean, why do I have to...
You don't have to do anything.
No, I'm saying, why would I care about all the bad that's going out in the world, but still can't state that it's bad in the world?
You are to speak life where there's death. You have the power of life and death, blessing and cursing in your tongue. And so you say the things that are not as though they were, because that's how you change it. If you're going to keep declaring...
Because I don't associate with anything with those bullies, but they're still there.
They'll outgrow it. And the thing is that the kids... And then what happens, once they outgrow it, then they're not going to keep pushing it on to where future generations, regardless generations, bullying stops. It does. And the thing is that those bullies, they get what's coming to them, and then they understand... That was just me putting hurt back out there that had been inflicted on me. At that point, I'm not going to do that.
I don't go as far as in that much thinking behind it. I just see it, read it, and I'm over it.
So by you reading it, just by taking it in, you're allowing it into your garden. Now, by you bringing it up, whenever I said...
It's like playing a League of Legends match, I played the game. I have it in my acknowledgement, and now I'm over that match. So, on to the next.
So here's the thing. Not all information is useful information. Not all information is true information. Just because something is true doesn't mean it's useful. That just means that at that point in time, that might have been that was an unimportant fact. And so, any article that tells you that school bullying and all that kind of stuff...
Exactly, that's what I mean. I'm just going through these news, and there's good stuff, and there's bad stuff. I'm going to read what I want to read, and keep the good stuff stored in there. And then if there's any bad stuff, it goes away, but doesn't mean I didn't see it, or doesn't mean I didn't read it.
So, whenever I said that bullying has gone down in the world and you disagreed, that is an ignorant disagreement. Because it's one of those that article in and of itself is ignorant.
One article in one day didn't justify that. I'm saying that I disagreed because of the amount of times I do see it. And it is in the news.
You know, that's the beautiful part too, is that there are things that happen that don't get reported by the news.
Exactly.
Now, with that, so if you're going to take news as the fact, then that news is your God.
I mean, it doesn't change the fact that they're happening. I just don't care to keep it relevant in my brain, you know?
So here's the thing. At that point, okay, so whenever I say that so here's the thing again. From 90s to now, the world is a better place. If anything, it wasn't a bad place back then either. It gets better every day. So with that, bullying does go down.
In reality, there's a lot more access to bullying nowadays than there is in reality, previous years because of social media and the wide spectrum of communication.
If you put yourself out there to get in that way, yeah.
You don't have to.
Exactly. So that's kind of like a moot point.
People can take pictures of other people without their consent.
And even with that, then they can put a fake article over it too.
They can do bully maneuvers.
In order for you to be bullied, you have to keep putting energy into it. You have to let the bully you. At that point, what you do, if someone's bullying you, just don't associate with it. Get some tougher skin.
That's easy for you to say.
That's easy for everyone to say. They just don't say it.
But that was in the 90s.
How hard is it to say that? No, that's a genuine question. How hard is it to say that?
To say what?
To say that, to disassociate. How hard is it to say that?
I mean,
it's not. You don't have to associate with a bully. You don't have to be around. You don't have to let a bully bully you.
Person, and you're going to school.
I've been there, done that.
And you see these people every single day.
Yeah,
and they're able to have access to social media.
Mm-hmm. Had that same thing
on all platforms that were not around back then.
All the platforms don't matter. Only the platforms you put time into. So again, been there, done that. I remember MySpace. I remember Facebook.
Two to tango on a bully spectrum.
It does. It takes the person to it. In order for there to be someone for a bully.
You're telling me that a person that never gets on social media, never talks to another person, and never associates with being bullied can't be bullied?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
I'm saying that you can only be bullied to the measure that you allow yourself to be bullied and that you identify with being bullied. And so at that point, what you can do is you can turn that bully into a friend. You can pass that bully on to the authorities. You can let the bully keep bullying until he stops bullying.
Guess what? These schools and the laws don't care.
Here's the thing: is that they're going to sort themselves out. It's not that they don't care.
Exactly.
Who are you going to say that they don't care?
Everything sorts itself out.
I used to say that same thing, to think that they don't care. It's one of those that they're doing what the best that they can do. If you're wanting more regulation, you're going to get more regulation. If you are not self-regulating, you will be regulated. If you are someone who is weak-minded and feel that you can be bullied, you shall be bullied. If you put yourself in those scenarios and you feel that that is the end-all be-all, so it shall be. Now, if you can see that, wait a minute, those bullies...
I mean, it's not up to us for those people to decide where they're at or the way they think. It's not up to you
to judge that they're being bullied to begin with either.
I mean, exactly. It's not up to me.
Now, here's the thing to also take into consideration. And
it's not up to you either.
Here's the thing to take into consideration. Well, frankly, anyways, I'm about to... A victim is only a victim if they identify with being a victim. A survivor is only a survivor if they survive.
I mean, it doesn't take, in my opinion, in my perspective, it does not take two to tango to have a bully.
So here's the thing. If a bully does something and you put them down to where they don't keep bullying you, are they still a bully? If
yes.
it's like, can a bully ever change and grow and not be a bully?
Yes. Doesn't change the fact that it happened, or
so do they have to stay with? So at that point, like, is that's an unimportant fact? Just because it happened, at that point you can let it go. Now to keep perpetuating,
we can let everything go,
but okay. So when you say "but," you're still holding attachment to the prior statement.
Exactly.
But nullifies whatever you said prior to that.
I mean to hold on to the prior statement.
Just so you're aware of what "but" means. But even in Latin is said.
I've known that. I've known.
Oh, okay, good. The meaning. Okay, good. So within that, a "but" is disempowering whatever you're hoping for prior to that.
I wasn't hoping for anything.
Or whatever you're conveying, rather, or whatever was.
I wasn't trying or attempting to convey anything.
So what is the point right now?
Letting you know that there's a ton more bullies than there was in the 90s.
According to who?
According to acknowledgement.
So your own knowledge. So you were around in the 90s and you got to see all the bullies in the 90s.
I can do comparison, yes.
That's not what my question was. So you were in the 90s. You saw what it was like in the 90s.
You don't have to see stuff to know stuff.
Really?
Yes.
That sounds like a solid argument for faith in my mind. You don't have to see stuff to know stuff.
You can learn things without being there.
So you can understand and learn things without being there. So that means that if you have faith, then it doesn't matter what's going on right there. You can have faith in the end, regardless of what's going on. If you don't have to see it to understand it, to know it, then that must be true of faith too, right?
I never said things couldn't get better. I never said there isn't more good than bad or good than bullies. I'm just saying that
sounds like
there's more bullies than the 90s.
That's one of those that's an unenlightened state.